Let's look at a couple more examples of correcting dependent word fragments. Now, in the module, there is a handout with some of the most common dependent words. You may want to have that handy if you haven't already familiarized yourself with them. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's on the board. The first one, although I forgot to study. Now, obviously, that does not express a complete thought. If I just walked up to you and said, although I forgot to study, you're waiting for me to finish that thought. So the way that we would correct this fragment is to add another statement to complete the thought. So let's do that now. First, I'm going to get rid of this period. I'm going to add a comma. And I'm going to add another statement. Got lucky. Although I forgot to study, I still passed the quiz. Now, notice that because the dependent word group comes first, I have set it off with a comma. Let's look at another example. Lyman spilled his bucket of popcorn while we waited in line for the movie. Well, is the first one a complete sentence or is it a dependent word fragment? Well, first off, it doesn't begin with a dependent word, so that's one clue. Do we have a subject? Yes, Lyman. Do we have a verb? Yes, spilled. And so that also expresses a complete thought. Lyman spilled his bucket of popcorn. We don't need any more information. That makes sense. Now let's look at the next one. While we waited in the line for the movie. Well, one clue from the very beginning is while is a dependent word. So we need to be mindful that we could have a dependent word fragment. Now, if I were to just walk up to you and say this, while we waited in line for the movie, is that enough information? No, you would wait for someone to give you additional information so that you know what happened while we waited in line for the movie. So the easiest way to fix this one is to connect it to the sentence that comes right before it, because that's the sentence that it's describing. So we're going to connect these by just eliminating that period. I'm going to change this to a lowercase w. Lyman spilled his bucket of popcorn while we waited in line for the movie. I've made it one complete sentence now, and I have corrected that fragment. So, one other way that I was going to mention that you can correct a fragment, I'm going to put this period back here. Although I forgot to study. Well, as we've mentioned already, although is kind of the problem word here. It's the dependent word. If you can erase the dependent word without changing the meaning, that is another way that you can correct a dependent word fragment. For example, if I just take out the word although, I forgot to study, I still passed the quiz. We haven't really changed the meaning, so this is another way to correct the fragment, but I would discourage you from doing that too often. For one, now we have two rather short, choppy sentences. We are kind of losing some of the variety in our sentence structure. We lose a little bit of the nuance. The word although does add a little something to the meaning of those two sentences. So I wouldn't encourage you to do that often, but just know that you also have that as kind of a backup plan. If you can't figure out another way, sometimes you can just eliminate the dependent word. All right, and I'll see you in the next video.